I'm gonna take you through my process on how I'm gonna set this up to do my skin taper. Prior to this moment, I've already cut the top and gotten that ready. So now we're gonna be connecting the bottom to the top. So now I have my FX3 clipper, and what I'm gonna use this for, depending on who you're asking, this could change for every single barber and hairstylist out there. What I like to use it for is removing bulk, setting up my guidelines, and doing all of my clipper overcomb. So I'm gonna take this hair down to a 1.5 towards the bottom. As you can see, I've created a guide zone that I know I'm gonna want a little bit longer. And once I get to that place, you see the curve that I've left where the weight is, I go back in and then I do my clipper overcomb and connect it to the parietal ridge. Pretty much by cutting the top first, this is allowing me to know where I want this hair to stop. So it's easier for me to work up into the hair versus chasing it from the bottom and hoping that I don't take too much off at the top. By setting the top and the parietal ridge length, this gives me a guide on what to aim for when I'm doing clipper over comb and matching up to that. Two areas that I think most people struggle with is connecting the bottom of the skin fade, and then the second part would be connecting the short of the blend into the top of the hair. So now if you look at this, the parietal ridge looks nice and smooth. I'm always looking at the silhouette, especially from a distance, because when I'm doing these blends, I want to make sure that it also fits the person. So I'm always analyzing somebody's head shape, their hair patterns, and just making sure that what I use on them is going to help enhance what they currently have, not forcing things to do something completely different than what they don't have. So now I'm going to start with edging out my taper area. So I'm going to start right around the ear, make sure that's nice and clean. This is an extra step, but for me, I think it just creates a cleaner kind of area of zone that I'm going to be blending. So setting this up ahead of time just lets me see my straight lines a little bit more. I don't have to worry about any of the excess hair, and I'm not going for a super crispy outline now. This is just kind of like a soft guide just to let me know where I'm at and how clean that I can get it. So already you can see me create my first guideline. Whether you make it straight or kind of a curve, that's up to you. Whatever it is that you choose, that's what you have to follow all the way up. I have my FX3 foil shaver. This thing is super powerful, 10,000 RPMs on 2. It's our lightweight body, so it's just really nice in the hand and super powerful. Okay, so now I have my FX3. This is all the way open. And keep this in mind, the FX3 is one of the hardest clippers to use, but once you get the hang of it, you actually will love it because it's a very aggressive blade, but it's good for people that have a lot of control when they're cutting. So I wouldn't actually recommend this to any beginners out there, but if you are more of intermediate to advanced, it is a great tool. And once you do get the hang of it, you will learn to appreciate a tool with this type of blade. It's super aggressive. Like I said, it's non-forgiving. So when you are blending with this, the lever from open to close is generally a little bit steeper. So it's not a super wide opening. You have a very small area to actually do the blend. So it's very particular, but like I said, the more practice you get with it, the better it is that you'll be with it. And that comes with any tool. You have to be able to use it a lot and on different types of textures and hairstyles so that you can understand how to maximize each of those tools. Without it, it's going to feel like a little foreign. So I always recommend this to people that whenever you are looking to purchase any new tools, like give yourself a good amount of time to practice with it because you're going to get better at that tool the more you use it. So this is where I have my natural setup taper. I've used the FX3, the shaver up to this point. As you can tell, this is more of a natural finish. I haven't edged anything. So this is where I'm going to use my FX3 trimmer. This is zero gapped, and as you can tell, just watching me just create that curve, you can see how sharp this blade is. This is a prototype blade actually. It's actually not one of the ones that launched with the new tools, but these were some test blades that we were trying out, and I found one that I really liked. And for some, this might feel a little too sharp, and for certain skin types, if they have a really sensitive reaction to blades going this close, I probably wouldn't use this blade. But for him, I tried it in certain areas that I was kind of testing out just to make sure he didn't welt up or anything like that, which has happened to me before. Even if I don't apply a lot of pressure, I'm generally pretty soft-handed. So it took a couple clients to realize that sometimes people just react to metals a little bit differently than others. It'll welt up even though it's not a lot of pressure. So I'm very careful on what blades I use on certain people, but his skin, he could totally handle this type of blade. So going through that already, you can tell there was no redness on his skin, and the blades were set really nicely to where they're not biting on one side or another, which is a very important part of setting up your tools. If you have the tools set well prior to your actual cutting portion, it's going to save you a ton of nightmares later that could happen, because when tools aren't set correctly, you're going to see a lot of redness on the skin, and you're going to see a couple of little bite teeth marks if you over zero gap it. So just look for those things when you are adjusting these type of tools. So then I get to this place next, and I have my trimmer creating my guideline. Now let's just say I want to take it one step further. When it comes to barbering, that is always something I aim for. Whether I was year 1 up to now, I'm going in on my 12th, I think, or 13th year, there is always areas of improvement. How can you make everything better? So when it comes to bringing the taper or fade to a new level, it's sometimes in the line work, and especially in barbershops, line works, especially when needed and asked for, this is a very crucial part, because it pretty much is framing how somebody's face is, whether that's the front hairline or the side hairline. So in this case, with just highlighting this taper section, I'm going to refine this and follow pretty much my trimmer blade as the guide and really enhance this sharp edge. And as I'm doing this, you can start to see the taper kind of pop a little bit more. It's almost accenting the blend. And if you are doing a low or mid taper, what you'll find out when you do a really nice edge across, the front of the sideburn to the behind the neck, you're gonna see that it gives the illusion that it completes the blend even more, and it almost drops the blend lower. So when you think you're doing a mid to high taper and then you add a really nice edge to it, it's almost like it drops it back down and completes the look. So it's really kind of crazy, but until you do it, you'll know what I mean. Now again, like I said earlier, outside of just lining up the front, especially if it's one of the clients that do prefer a super sharp edge up, I'm gonna make sure that I do it around the front. I'm not a huge fan of people that have long length on top and having to do a box lineup across the front. If they have generally longer hair that's not worn completely down, I personally am not a fan. I know some people ask for it, but in my eyes, there's just a certain style that I like, and that is the reason why we all have such different types of clientele that seek us out, because people will be attracted to you by what you also believe in and your style preference. And so I'm leaving the front natural, and I'm just doing the edges on the side tight, and also this back area here that's connecting the neck taper into his neck. I just feel like it's going to highlight that back a little bit more. And he works at a restaurant, so I know that he does care about how his hair looks, so we're going to make this sharp just along those edges. Okay, so this isn't a full tutorial, but this just to give you an idea of what we did with his hair. Front with a curly top, and then just connecting the back and the sides with a nice clean taper to really enhance that look when you're looking at him from the side. So I met this guy at a restaurant, and I saw his huge mustache, and I'm like, yo, let me do something on you. And he came through and he loved the cut. This is the only way that we can diversify our clientele, is that when you go out and you see something you like, just ask people. You just never know. This is a great way to always introduce yourself, especially locally. And it's been a way for me to really find different types of clientele that don't normally look like the ones that would walk into the shop. So that is just a random tip. So definitely try it out, and I hope you guys enjoyed this one.